Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. So I am going to share with you another message that was received by one of our admins. The message was like this: hello admin, can you please post my own story as anonymous? My story goes like this: I lost my sister through a very short and a strange illness, and our grandfather then offered to buy a very expensive casket, but after so many years of rejecting I and my sister, me and my sister, we grew up as orphans, and our parents, they died so many years ago, and me and my late sister, we quickly realized that life was not fair at all after our parents had died. After the death of our parents, our grandfather was the one who volunteered that he wanted to be our guardian, but I remember that growing up, our grandfather, he mistreated us so badly. He would call us terrible names. If we could go to his house asking for help, he would say, "Why are you bothering me? Why don't you just leave me in peace?" He clearly told us that we should leave him and we should not bother him with our own problems. Even me, he said, "Your only existence, you exist so as to give me headaches with all of your nonsense." When I think about my past, sometimes I just cry when I think that at 15 years old, I already knew what to do when you are with a man in bed. It's not because I wanted to get into bed with all of these men that were chasing after me, but I had no role model in my life. I still remember this other time I slept with this guy. He was much older than me. Then he gave me an STI. I think I was somewhere around 16 years old or so. When I went to the clinic, the nurse who gave me treatment, instead of her asking me if I had been assaulted or if I had been sexually abused, she chose to embarrass me, and news quickly spread. Everyone at school knew that I had been treated for STI. I had no choice but to drop out of school, because what will happen is that boys will then approach me asking for sex. If I will say no, then the boy is either he will slap me and say that you have been going around giving other people sex, so what is wrong with me? So after I had dropped out of school, what I did is that I found a job at this local restaurant. So during the day I'll be working at the restaurant, then at night I'll be attending night school. Eventually I passed. Then I applied at this university, but on the forms there was a space whereby my grandfather, as our guardian, he was supposed to fill up those forms. When I took those forms to him so that I can complete my application, he refused. He told me that he wasn't going to sign that form, and he said that he who has started his own project must make sure that they are able to complete that project without involving other people. Then I just gave up about going back to school. Then my sister, recently she fell sick. I called grandfather that my sister had been admitted into the hospital and her life was in danger. The answer that I got from my grandpa truly shocked me. At that time I was standing next to the bed where my sister was gravely ill. Then he told me that God who heals will let the doctors do their jobs properly. Even if I come there, I am not the one who is carrying a bag that contains the oxygen that she is going to breathe. Remember that I am not God or a man of God. Am I a man of God? Have you ever had any single day whereby I have been called to the hospital and you have heard that I performed a miracle by raising up the dead? If she is going to die, it means that her time is come. Then he dropped the call. I wanted to cry, but because of my sister, I made sure that I appear as if grandpa had said nothing bad over the call, because my little sister was right there lying in bed and she was so sick. She then asked me, "Is grandpa going to come?" I then lied to her. I told her, yes, grandpa said that right now he is on his way. She then told me that there are a few things that I want to ask of grandpa. I told her that grandpa is going to come, don't worry, soon he will be here. I then told her that I'm going into the bathroom. When I went into the bathroom, I cried a lot because I started to remember all of the bad things grandpa had done to us as we were growing up. My little sister, she died whilst I was holding her in my arms, and at that time when she passed on, I didn't even realize that she had died, because she just said, I just want to sleep. And I told her, sleep whilst we are waiting for grandpa. That is how she just passed on. She just died peacefully. When the nurse came to check on us and telling me that the visiting hours had passed. But what surprised me is what the nurse then did. She changed the position in which my sister was lying, because she had been lying on her left side whilst I was holding her in my arms. Then she turned her so that her head was now facing upwards. But I asked her, why is she not moving at all? Then she told me that, no, I had just given her some medication that is going to make her sleep more. She then rushed me out of the ward where my sister was admitted. As we were exiting that ward, she said, no, you are going to use the elevator. Then she gave me an office number. Then she told me that when you go upstairs, go and wait for me by this door. I'm going to come because there is something that I have forgotten in the ward. She went back, but she went back straight to where my sister was lying. So I was quite confused. I didn't even decide to use the elevator because a lot of people were using that elevator. So I just wanted to be alone. So then I used the stairs to go up. So when I had reached the second floor, I then walked towards that office where the nurse had told me that I should go and wait for her. But as I walked towards that door, I realized that there were people who were talking inside. I immediately recognized the voice of that nurse. That is how I found out that my little sister had just died. It was like it was the end of the world for me. I just wanted to jump from that second floor and just end my life. But that nurse, she cancelled me a lot. But what surprised me is that as she was cancelling me, then my grandfather suddenly he called. When I spoke with him on the phone, he was crying. I asked him, Grandpa, why are you crying? Then he was like, your sister has just died. Have you heard? At that time, I actually didn't even think about who might have told Grandpa that my little sister had just died, because all that I still remember is that when my sister fell ill, I called the ambulance, and I'm the only one who went with my sister to the hospital. There was no other visitor who went to visit her. Even the number that was written at the reception, it was my number, and I was the next of kin to my little sister. There are so many times I just sit and I wonder, but that day, who told Grandpa that my little sister had died? Because it was only me who was at the hospital. There was no other relative, but all along he was pretending as if he was too busy to come to the hospital, because he had said that he was planning a business trip out of town. But after he had called me telling me about my sister's death, he then called me, I think something around 15 minutes or so. He called me and he said, where are you? I told him that I am in the doctor's office. He then told me, I am by your sister's bedside. Can you please come? I was truly shocked, because the time that it had taken for him to hear the news, come to the hospital, and then the hospital staff to direct him to where my little sister was lying dead. When I entered that hospital ward, I then realized that Grandpa was sitting on the edge of the bed. He was signing some papers. I wanted to approach him because I was so angry, but his bodyguard was standing there facing me. So I knew that if I cause any commotion, he was going to command his bodyguard to kick me out of that ward, and there was nothing that I could do about it. I asked him, Grandpa, what are those papers for? Then he said that he had started the process of the burial arrangements for my little sister. I was so angry with him. I asked him, Grandpa, why are you making these arrangements without even asking for my own opinion? He just replied me and he said, do you have any single cent in your bank account? And I said, I don't have anything. And he said, you see, that is the reason why I have started this process of the burial arrangements, because if I don't do this, she is going to be buried like a poor man's granddaughter. Am I not rich? His bodyguard then nodded his head and he said, you are rich, sir. Then he laughed and he stood up, and then they just walked away. On my little sister's funeral, my grandpa rose up and he gave a speech. He said that this little granddaughter of mine, when she was still alive, I didn't give her enough surprises, but I was planning that this year her on her very own birthday. There was a huge surprise that I was planning for her. Now that she has died, I have decided to pay this tribute. I have given her this very expensive casket. Since she robbed me that opportunity to surprise her on her birthday, I have decided to buy her this expensive coffin because it is going to be a last house for her. My question is my grandpa for real? Is he not the one who caused my sister's death? After what he had done to us ever since we grew up, why would he spend so much money on a funeral of someone that you hated so much? I truly don't even know what to think anymore. When I think about my little sister's funeral, it was more like a party than a funeral. As we left my grandpa's house headed for her burial site, there was a convoy of very expensive cars. I still remember that as we were leaving for her burial site, 6 cars arrived, and all of them, they were brand new cars. It was like 3 in front, 3 at the back, then the car that was carrying a coffin, it was in the middle. And these 6 cars, all of them, they were black, brand new Mercedes GWagons, and they had temporary number plates with my sister's name written on those number plates. During the funeral of my little sister, I thought that things were going to change, because I still remember as they were burying my little sister, the coffin was going down. I was crying, so grandpa walked towards me and he was hugging me, telling me, "You are not supposed to cry when a coffin is being lowered. Don't cry, my child, everything is going to be okay." I just thought that maybe he had changed. So after the burial of my little sister, I then later told myself that I was going to visit grandpa at his house. But upon arrival at his house, I then met his ever angry bodyguard. He asked me what is it that I wanted at that house. I told him that I had come to see my grandpa. He said, "You cannot see your grandpa whenever you wish, like you have to call me first, then I will tell him, then he will tell me, then I will tell you." So I turned back and I waited for the call, but the call never came back. I then realized that grandpa had cut all of the communication that can happen between me and him. Now, since the death of my sister, I've been troubling myself. Am I the one who is going to follow? Am I just going to wake up feeling sick? Then that will be the end of me. My little sister was all that I ever had. I just pray with all the stories that I hear that grandpa is not a ritualist, and the death of my little sister, it was just a natural process. If you do post my story, please tell me so that I can also read other people's comments. That was a message right there from Anonymous. Please let us talk about it in the comment section. It really breaks my heart that even though I try by all means to make these shows, but other people, they actually come to my inbox. Like yesterday, there was this other brother who said, "My brother, I have so much suffered in my life, so much that I am willing even just to enjoy, even if they say it's for 1 hour, I can sacrifice my family so that I can be rich." The love of money will make you do crazy things. Let's meet again in the following episodes.